Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could just ask you to take your seats. Two reasons I want to make sure we're prompt this morning is one, obviously we have the live link working for people who can't be here, and two, I'm sure you've all looked up in the sky this morning and asked yourself some questions about what might occur later, so I'm keen that we carry on. Welcome to Hyde Park, London, and to this special place, the 7th of July Memorial. This is a place that is open to all, from any part of the world, from any culture, background or religion, to come, reflect and connect with the events that occurred 19 years ago today. As every year, London continues to thrive around us. 9 million people, each experiencing their own unique day. But 19 years ago, for some, was a day that was cruelly cut short by a series of terrorist attacks that shocked the world. For most, their lives were irrevocably changed, bearing physical and mental scars that remain as real today as they did back in 2005. As you know, not everyone affected is here today, and many reflect in their own ways across every continent. Those who were bereaved, those who were injured, and those who responded. Thousands of people will never forget what happened. What emerged after the attacks, slowly at first, was a connection, a strength of unity, and a community that provided immense support for those within it. This is a powerful bond that's been instrumental in improving the lives of everyone who remains. Yet, it is a community no one would wish to ever have to join. It is right that we remember this significant day for generations to come and ensure that those who were taken, injured, or left bereaved will not be forgotten. And I'll ask you all to join me in a minute's silence. Thank you. We now move on to our first speaker, and that will be Graham Fuchs. His words spoken by Thelma Stober.
Every year I look forward to this day when I meet my 7th of July 2005 family. It's unbelievable that it's been 19 years since that dreadful day. Many of us, in different ways, still suffer the consequences of the 7th of July 2005, whether our injuries are seen or unseen. This is a message from David Fuchs. David Fuchs was a young man content with life when he boarded a tube train bound for Edgware Road on the morning of the 7th of July 2005. The 22-year-old from Oldham was enjoying his new job as a media sales manager for The Guardian, based in Manchester, when his life was taken. I now read a message from his mother and father, Graham and Janet Fuchs. Hello, everyone. It's so sad to have to meet like this again, 19 years on, when all our lives were changed forever by an unimaginable, senseless terrorist attack. Janet and I will be here with you all next year. Right now, we're with David at his grave. We are chatting to him, bringing him up to date with our plans for holidays with Jill, her husband, their children, our grandchildren. We talk to him about how we imagine what his family would be like. What's the planning for their holidays? How he would be getting on with his career at home. These are the sort of conversations that everybody has with their children. On the 7th of July, 19 years ago, all that's changed. We, like so many others, stopped being an ordinary family. We are no longer parents with 2 children, and Jill suddenly became an only child. Now, we, like you are, simply getting on with our lives day by day. David was taken from us suddenly and in a manner that we never imagined. Although gone, he will always be part of our lives. His memories will live on forever. We hope that you're well and that today is not too difficult. Please take care of those you love as they take care of you. Thank you, Janet and Graham.
Thank you, Thelma. And moving on to our next speaker now, Mr. Tony Silvestro.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tony Silvestro, a hero, although he wouldn't like me to say that. 19 years ago, I was lying on the train track with parts of the door on my left foot. I wanted to be alive for my mother and my 3-year-old son, and I was shouting, "Help me, help me." And guess what? Tony came to my help. 19 years, it took 19 years for me to meet Tony, but it was the best day of my life for that 19 years. And I asked Tony to share what he did on that day. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. This is not something I normally do, is public speaking, so just bear with me. And basically, I'm just going to go through what I did on the day. Like I said, my name is Tony Silvestro. I'm a retired police officer with the British Transport Police. I've been asked by Thelma to relate my part in the London bombings. And those of you that know Thelma, you don't really refuse her, so that's why I'm here today. I'm not going to go into great details. I mean, I've gone over the story many times in the past, and without trying to be too graphic, I'm just going to give you a little précis of what I did on that day. 19 years ago, I was a detective constable attached to the Race Hate Crime Unit, whose office was based directly above Aldgate Underground Station. At around 9 a.m. I was in my office. At this time there was a loud bang, the force of which caused a cup of coffee on my desk to fall over. It was obvious that the explosion came from the tube station below. Words to the effect of "what was that?" passed my lips, and I ran down to the station area. When I reached the booking hall area, I was told by underground staff that there had been an electrical power surge, and as a result it was decided to clear the station. Having cleared the station, I waited around the booking hall area when someone shouted, "There's people in the tunnel." I immediately turned to a member of underground staff and said to him, "Give me your vest," and I took his torch. I then ran down the stairs toward the train tunnels. Now those of you who don't know Aldgate Station, it's an open station, but the tunnels are at the end and it's quite a high ceiling. Anyway, as I ran along the platform towards the tunnel, great plumes of smoke started to cascade out of the tunnel. I can only describe it like a volcano erupting. When I got to the end of the tunnel, you could see a number of people on the tracks. It was like a scene from the Michael Jackson Thriller video. Their faces were blackened and their hair and clothing disheveled. I jumped down onto the tracks and started to run down the tunnel through the smoke. Visibility was virtually non-existent and it was hard to breathe. As I kept moving forward down the tunnel, people kept coming and all I could do was shout, "Police, keep moving." The further I got into the tunnel, the easier it became to see, and my eyes became accustomed to the darkness and the thick smoke. Eventually I saw a train. I could see one of the central carriages had had its doors blown off and was left hanging. All the time people were shouting and screaming, and all I could do was shout, "Police, help is coming." Excuse me. I ran to the carriage with the doors blown off and managed to climb in. I assessed the situation and tried to assure those that were within that help was on its way. I'm not going to go into graphic details, but the scene was carnage. I then jumped down onto the tracks and turned to a member of underground staff and said to him, "Go and get everyone," implying all the emergency services. As I moved along the carriages, I shone my torch into the train. I could see that the train was packed. It was then that I heard someone shout, "Help." The voice came from beneath one of the rear carriages, about 70 feet from the damaged carriage. As I shone my torch down, I could see a female lying amongst the debris. This person I now know to be Thelma. I immediately went to her and assessed her injuries and told her I would return. My priorities at this time were to get everyone off the train, as there was a possibility of a secondary device. By this time, other police officers had arrived on scene. They dealt with the casualties whilst I focused on getting everyone off the train and away from the scene. We managed to get to the rear door of the trains and eventually opened them, and people began to move along the train and out onto the track. I managed to climb onto an elevated position and began to direct people out towards the station. When the train looked clear, I climbed back into the train and made sure everyone was out. At this point, I returned to Thelma, who was being tended to by a male. I told him to go and I would stay with her. I could see that she was severely injured and she kept going in and out of consciousness. I did the best I could with her injuries and kept talking to her and shining the light in her eyes. If her eyes were open, she was alive. Eventually I was joined by some firemen and we managed to fashion a stretcher and carry Thelma out. I then helped her into the ambulance, closed the door, and it drove off. I took my high visibility vest off, threw it to the ground and turned. All I could see was utter chaos. I remember thinking, what just happened? I looked at my watch, it was 12:30. That was the last time I saw Thelma until about 5 weeks ago. Thank you.
And now we have our first song of the day. I'm very pleased to invite it to be performed by the London International Gospel Choir, and it'll be "Stand By Me" by Benny King. Thank you. Our next speaker couldn't be here today. However, they have prepared their thoughts for you. I'll just hand over to the team.
Hello,
Mr. Christian.
My name is Christian Fisher. It is a great honour to be able to address you today. Thank you to the organisers for making this possible. I'm sorry that I cannot be here in person, but I will be marking these events with you throughout the day from where I am. We are all fragments of a shattered day. By coming together, we build up a broader picture of 7th July 2005, but we will never be able to piece back together and undo the moment that fractured our lives. We are all burdened by a common experience of horror and grief. The grief we all carry requires constant strength, which I'm sure all of you will know can be tough to find at times. But together we recognise each other's burdens and understand the enormity of carrying it through day-to-day life. Every time we meet, we can look forward to the relief, where we can freely talk and offload much of the weight, without judgment or fear. A safe space where the deafening silence is a language universally spoken. Together we are more complete than alone. With each gathering, we connect with a new person and build a stronger survivor community. I can't imagine meeting a more extraordinary group with as much courage and endurance as this one. On 7/7, I was running late for school. I was 13 and had just started to commute to school on my own. I had already been late a few times that week, so I was fearful of earning another detention. Deciding it would be quicker to take the Underground than stay on the bus, I boarded the Victoria line at Vauxhall to take me close to school at Oxford Circus. I made it as far as the tunnel before Green Park Station. After being held in the tunnel for longer than normal, the driver announced that there were power fluctuations on the line and we would be terminating at the next station. I began to wonder which was worse: hazardous power surges beneath us, being lost without a map, or the certainty of detention when I finally reached school. I walked in the direction I thought was best until I recognised a landmark. Then I knew where I was. Running the rest of the way, I saw my headmaster standing on the street outside the school gates, and I thought, damn, he's busted me. But instead of telling me off, he calmly yet urgently told me to go straight to the assembly room to check in. Maybe he let me off because he could see that I was running, or maybe he just didn't want to sit through another detention with me. Entering the assembly room, I spotted my good friend and sat next to him. The roomers were already rushing round the room like flies. It was already well into class time, and we were all gathered on the floor of the hall, so we all knew something was odd. A teacher broke the excited chatter and informed us that the school was in the process of contacting our parents to immediately come to collect us. Surprised by this announcement, all rumours seemed to cease, and stunned silence filled the room. I, on the other hand, sank into deep dread, as I began to realise my dad was in France and had no chance of coming for me, and my mum was working somewhere deep in South London, and she carried no mobile phone. Thankfully, she now carries a phone, though she hardly ever switches it on. Thinking I'd be spending the rest of the day and probably all weekend on the floor of the assembly room, I watched in misery as my classmates began to vanish home with their families. Then my friend's mum stepped into the hall, and after a quick word of the teacher, she was allowed to take us both away to their home near to Russell Square. I felt so lucky that they lived so close, and I could be out of school so quickly. You can imagine the sheer joy my friend and I felt at having a whole day to play instead of school lessons. But this feeling didn't last long. Walking through the street, we were alarmed by the constant sound of sirens and emergency vehicles racing from every direction. The streets were packed, as there were far more people commuting on foot than normal for this time. Reaching the open space of Tavistock Square, we diverted into the park in the middle to avoid the crowds and catch some fresh air. We emerged close to the BMA building and were about to step out between the traffic to the other side when it happened. A suicide bomber detonated his device, killing 13 passengers, causing the entire roof of the bus to land in front of us. It took me over 11 years to find the strength to release the memories of this trauma, and I will not detail them here. I will only describe that moment that I saw the rear section as like staring into the heart of a black hole. You know that you are looking directly at it, but you can't comprehend or decipher what you are looking at. because what I saw was a scene of pure darkness that has no place in this world. After 19 years, I still can't understand why, and I hope to never fathom the hateful motives of the attackers. I do not forgive, yet I do not hate. I cannot forget, and yet I only wish to communicate and construct peace. I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy. Today, as with every anniversary, I am reminded of the precious fragility of life, the privilege of every day, and to keep contributing towards a better tomorrow. Though I know it sounds irrational, despite being 13 at the time, I am haunted by the choice not to stop and aid the nearby wounded. This has motivated me to unconditionally assist others in need ever since. As a young Army cadet in the years after, I sought to learn advanced trauma first aid, which qualified me to teach first aid to junior cadets. I regularly carried a trauma first aid kit around with me to give improved treatment to anyone in need. That guilt and desire to help compelled me to rush towards danger on the 22nd of March 2017, during the Westminster Bridge attack. As a freelance photojournalist at the time, I had intended to record the unfolding story of humanity and resilience, but I very quickly downed my cameras to help the survivors. I'm sure that you will be relieved to know that nowadays I no longer carry a first aid kit, or constantly listen out for breaking news events, though I will never stop unconditionally protecting and defending fellow survivors, the bereaved, and those in need. Today, I commit to a range of voluntary services outside of my normal working week. I advocate for policy and response changes, and encouraging better awareness through several advisory roles, including the National Emergencies Trust, Counter-Terrorism Policing, and the Department of Education at schools and universities. None of this would be possible without your enormous support over the years. Without your help and guidance, there is no way that I would have found the capacity to overcome and manage severe PTSD, or to sustain my mission to encourage positive change for all affected by terrorism, without knowing you were there holding me up every step of the way. Let us commit ourselves to remember and honour our fellow commuters, friends and family lost on 7th July 2005 and in the years since. May our response be to always welcome, support and embrace each other. Thank you.
Can I invite Tracy Braid, please, come forward.
Hi, my name is Tracy, and I'm one of the survivors of the 7/7 bombings. I have two wonderful children, a daughter named Harlem who is 32 years old, and a son, Roman, who is 12 years old. On 7/7/2005, I was working for London Underground Limited and was employed as a buyer within the procurement department at Templar House, Holborn. My journey was always to travel on the Piccadilly line on the first carriage. This is a glimpse of my story on that day. As the train left King's Cross station, I remember thinking about the to-do list waiting for me on my desk. Then all of a sudden, I felt myself shudder. I saw what looked like smoke, clouds passing through me. And then I heard ringing sounds and felt myself floating. I actually said to myself, how embarrassing, I'm going to faint. And my last thoughts were that I was going to be laying on the carriage floor and everyone asking me if I was okay. This was not the case. Later on, I had learned that a bomb had been detonated. I was unconscious. I don't know for how long. I just know that when I came to, everything had changed. I was disorientated, and it took a little while for me to grasp what had happened. I then came to the conclusion that the train had derailed. Now the fear had kicked in and I was panic-stricken. I could not breathe properly and the pains in my back and my chest were horrendous. I feared the worst. I prayed to God to please save me. Do not take me away from my little girl, because she only has me. And he answered my prayer. I heard a soft voice saying to me, "Are you all right?" I remembered saying to her that my chest and back hurts and that I cannot move. She helped to free me from being trapped. We held on to each other for dear life, and this comforted us both. Her name is Rachel. I heard the train driver say that if you are able to walk, he can let us go through the front door of the train into the tunnel and head to Russell Square station. I had lost my shoes in the explosion and had to walk barefoot and hunched. Rachel held my hand all the way as we walked with the other survivors to safety. Rachel and I got split up at the forecourt of the station. I was then taken to St Thomas's Hospital, where I stayed for 1 week. I sustained burns to both legs and back and chest injuries. 19 years on, I have not seen Rachel again. She was my rock and helped me to safety. And I'm unable to find her to give her a huge hug to say thank you. Rachel, if you are watching this, or if you do, and when you do, please reach out to me. And if there is no Rachel, I believe that God sent a guardian angel to save me. Praise be to God. The paramedics were absolutely amazing. The ambulance service ran out of all the equipment. As they were not sure of the extent of my injuries, they strapped 2 big bottles of water to my head and shoulders to support my spine. And after a few days in hospital, they came to see me, and I'm truly grateful for them for the care given and for checking in on me too. My recovery over the years has been challenging. After completing 22 years of service, my employment unfortunately came to an end. My employers demonstrated empathy, compassion, patience, and supported me throughout the 2 years as I struggled to get back into work. And then in January of 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And after being in remission for 6 years, the cancer came back in 2014. Throughout the surgery and aftercare treatment, I was remarkably strong and determined to beat it no matter what it takes. And yet surviving 7/7 for me was harder and is still to this day to overcome. I was robbed of my confidence, my ability to continue working, to go places, to feel safe, hopping on the buses or the tubes, just getting around London, even seeing a rucksack tipped me over the edge. I felt like my life had been violated, and what was once the norm for me has now been compromised, and I was living in fear of my safety, living in a nightmare of anxiety and panic attacks. In 2012, I gave birth to my amazing son, Roman. He has a diagnosis of autism. His obsession with buses and tubes and trains was my hell, as you could imagine. But over the years, he had helped me face the things that I feared most. And he has given me the strength and courage to not let the terrorists win. His autism became a priority because if I didn't take him on the buses or tubes, he would be having major meltdowns and episodes, and no way was I going to be adding this to the mix. I remember being with you all on the first anniversary held at Regent's Park. After this, it was like everyone, including myself, had disappeared off the radar. I simply had lost contact. I felt alone, and this had a massive impact on my recovery. My friends and family, St Andrew's Church congregation, were absolutely fantastic in supporting me, and this kept me going. But there was this hole within me that could not be filled. So every year on the day of 7/7, I would go to Russell Square to pay my respects to those who didn't survive, and to their families, and to the other survivors, you guys. Through prayer, I would send love, light, strength to get us all through another year. On the 11th anniversary of 2006, at Russell Square Station, I met the lovely Helen, who works for TfL. We talked, and I said to her that I am one of the survivors. She embraced me with a big hug and called me the lost survivor. We chuckled through this emotion because it had a nice sound to it. She then introduced me to George, Sudesh, and Ellie. Wow, that hole that was eating me up inside was slowly disappearing. I immediately bonded with them, and I want you all to know that you have given me strength and have been my rock from 2016 to date. They have helped me immensely with my recovery, and I am truly grateful. We would touch base throughout the year and meet at Russell Square on 7/7, and they would always say to me, come along to Hyde Park. I was never able to come along until after COVID. Sudesh and George introduced me to most of you. I am happy to finally be here to share my story with you. I love the fact that we encourage each other, support and strengthen each other when needed. You have all played a significant part in my recovery, and I thank you all, and much love to you all always. Life is good. God willing, I'm heading into my 10th year in mission. My Christian faith has been a tower of strength. I have drawn so much through prayers and scriptures from the Bible. My personal relationship with God is going from strength to strength. God is amazing. I have a wonderful family and friends, and we are so close. And having you all in my life, this keeps me positive. In this, I am not alone, and I thank you.
And now we go back to the London International Gospel Choir for a song, Higher and Higher, by Jackie Wilson. Thank you.
Your love keeps lifting me. Keep on lifting me.
Thank you. And now we move on to the reading of the names of those who were killed on the 7th of July 2005. Just before we do that, I'd like to make a quick reflection on Tim Coulson, who took on this challenging role every year, and it is certainly not easy. This year I'd like to invite David Gardner up to read the names. Thank you.
Sorry. The names of those who died at 4 locations in London on the 7th of July 2005. James Adams, Sam Badham and Lee Christopher Harris, Lee Baisden, Philip Beer, Anna Brandt, Michael Stanley Brewster, Karen Cassidy, Rochelle Chung Fo Yun, Benedetta Chaka, Liz Daplin, Jonathan Downey, Richard Ellery, Anthony Fatai Williams, David Folks, Arthur Frederick, Carolina Gluck, Jamie Gordon, Richard Martin Gray, Gamza Gonoro, Giles Vernon Hart, Marie Joanne Hartley, Miriam Hyman, Ojara Ikiagwu, Shahara Islam, Neetu Jain, Emily Jenkins, Helen Catherine Jones, Adrian Johnson, Susan Levy, Sam Lee, Shelley Mather, Michael Matsushita, James Mays, Anne Moffat, Colin Morley, Benaz Muzaka, Jennifer Vanda Ann Nicholson, Mahala Otto, Shayanuja Nirashina Parasangari, Anat Rosenberg, Philip Stewart Russell, Atik Sharifi, Ihab Slimani, Christian Nyoja Diawara Small, Fiona Stevenson, Monica Sukacha, Carrie Taylor, Marla Trivedi, Laura Susan Webb, William Wise, Gladys Wundowa.
Thank you, David. I'd now like to bring forward Joe Dover, please, for the closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for attending this important memorial ceremony today. Thank you especially to Tony, Tony, Thelma, who spoke on behalf of Graham and Janet, Christian, Tracy, and David for speaking today. We know it's not easy. We'd also like to say thank you to the Mayor of London and his team, the Royal Parks, the London International Gospel Choir, Howard Colonies, IQ Broadcasting, and Strength to Strength for their support in making this event happen today. And our sincere thanks also goes to Angela, Joanne, Sudesh, Christian, Graham, Tony, John, and Ellie for organising today's event. The ceremony has been live streamed today on YouTube and will be available later on the 7th of July community channel. As we close this event, we would now like to invite you to come and collect a gerbera flower and place it on the pillars and the plaque for the memorial as the London International Gospel Choir sing their final song. Thank you all for attending today.